Hello everyone, and welcome. When power feels threatened, truth often becomes the first casualty. And in Uganda's latest election cycle, that familiar African pattern has returned with unsettling force. In recent days, a wave of alleged leaked documents, internal communications, and parallel tally sheets has flooded opposition circles, civil society networks, and encrypted online platforms, all pointing to one explosive claim that the official results announced by the Ugandan Electoral Commission do not reflect the will of the voters. According to opposition figures and independent activists, these materials suggest that Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobi Wine, may have secured a decisive electoral victory, only to see it overturned by a deeply entrenched regime determined to retain power at all costs. Before we continue, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and reach more people like you. I want to read your thoughts. Drop your opinions in the comments below. The alleged leaks, whose authenticity has not been independently verified, paint a picture of a well-coordinated electoral manipulation strategy. Opposition lawyers claim the files include scanned polling station returns that sharply contradict the figures later released at district and national levels. In several contested constituencies, the opposition alleges that Bobi Wine led comfortably at the polling station level, only for his numbers to shrink or disappear entirely once results were transmitted upward. Analysts sympathetic to the opposition argue that this pattern mirrors past elections in Uganda, where localized transparency gives way to centralized opacity. Strategically, these allegations strike at the heart of President Yoweri Museveni's long-standing legitimacy narrative. For decades, Museveni's regime has relied on elections not necessarily to offer genuine competition, but to provide a veneer of constitutional continuity. Opposition voices argue that the alleged leaked files show how that system operates in practice: allow voting to proceed, manage visibility at the grassroots, then control aggregation, delay announcements, and deploy security forces to suppress dissent before challenges can crystallize. What gives the current claims added weight, according to opposition leaders, is the timing. The alleged documents surfaced alongside reports of widespread internet disruptions, heavy military deployments in urban centers, and the preemptive detention of opposition coordinators. Bobi Wine himself has repeatedly stated that his campaign collected its own results and that these internal tallies showed a clear win. While the government dismisses these claims as propaganda, the alleged leaks have intensified skepticism among sections of the public and the diaspora. From a geopolitical perspective, the controversy has placed Uganda's international partners in an uncomfortable position. The United States, already locked in a tense exchange with Uganda's Army Chief General Muhoozi Kainerugaba over his provocative social media posts, now faces renewed pressure to reassess its relationship with Kampala. Human rights organizations argue that if the alleged electoral fraud is substantiated, continued security cooperation would effectively amount to endorsing democratic backsliding. In Washington policy circles, Uganda is increasingly being discussed not just as a security partner, but as a potential liability. The strategic implications for the Museveni regime are significant. Domestically, allegations of stolen elections erode the social contract that sustains authoritarian stability. Even regimes built on coercion require a minimum level of perceived legitimacy. If large segments of the population believe their votes are meaningless, political disengagement can quickly give way to radicalization. Opposition figures warn that Uganda risks entering a dangerous phase where peaceful electoral change appears impossible, making street politics and confrontation more likely. Regionally, Uganda's instability carries broader consequences. Kampala plays a central role in regional security architecture, particularly in Somalia and the Great Lakes region. Western diplomats quietly acknowledge that a legitimacy crisis at home weakens Uganda's ability to project stability abroad. The alleged leaks, whether proven or not, amplify concerns that Uganda's political model is increasingly brittle, dependent on force rather than consent. The government's response has followed a familiar script. Officials have dismissed the leaked materials as fabricated, accused the opposition of attempting to delegitimize state institutions, and warned against what they call foreign-backed disinformation campaigns. Security agencies have intensified patrols, restricted public gatherings, and signaled zero tolerance for post-election protests. Critics argue that such measures, rather than restoring confidence, reinforce suspicions that the state has something to hide. For Bobi Wine and his supporters, the alleged leaks serve both as evidence and as a rallying symbol. Strategically, the opposition appears to be shifting from an electoral challenge to an international advocacy campaign, aiming to frame Uganda's election not as a domestic dispute, but as a global democratic concern. By pushing the leaked files into diplomatic and media channels abroad, the opposition hopes to trigger sanctions, travel bans, and aid conditionality targeting key regime figures, yet risks remain high. Without independent verification, the leaked materials may struggle to translate into concrete international action. Western governments, while critical, tend to prioritize stability and counter-terrorism cooperation. Uganda's leadership is betting that geopolitical pragmatism will ultimately outweigh democratic ideals. Whether that calculation holds may depend less on the documents themselves and more on how persistent and unified domestic pressure becomes. What is clear is that Uganda has entered a volatile political moment. Allegations of electoral fraud, combined with aggressive rhetoric from the president's son and growing international scrutiny, have exposed fractures that can no longer be papered over with official statements. Even if the regime maintains control in the short term, the long-term damage to institutional credibility may prove irreversible. In the end, elections are not just about winners and losers, they are about trust. And in Uganda today, trust is in dangerously short supply. Whether the alleged leaked files ultimately change the political outcome or fade into contested history, they have already achieved one thing. They have deepened the question at the center of Ugandan politics: who truly governs by consent and who governs by force. As Uganda stands at this crossroads, the world watches closely, aware that the consequences of this moment will echo far beyond a single election cycle. That's where the story stands for now. Thank you for watching.